exponents. So our second step in order of operations, and now again, we're working backwards, right? So I did step 4 first, then step 3, now I'm doing step 2. Our second step is exponents. And now exponents are also called powers, and we're going to look more in depth at how they work in combining powers later in the course, but for now we're just going to look at some very simple powers. Okay, an exponent represents how often a number, okay, is multiplied by itself. Okay. It is represented by a small little number placed in the top right of our initial value. Okay. A regular integer has a power of 1, which we never show, it's just by itself. Okay. This is never shown as it is implied. Okay, so it's never shown, it's just implied. We don't really need to worry about that too much. Okay, all right, so let's solve each exponent. We're going to represent the exponent as repeated multiplication. Okay, when I say repeated multiplication, 4 to the power 3 represents 4 times 4 times 4. So you notice there are 3 4s and we're multiplying them together. The 3 represents how many times, the 4 represents the number that we're using. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 4 is 64. So 4 to the power of 3 is 64. Now, for the most part, I'm not going to have you do numbers too big. I believe for the assignment, most of them are just either to the power of 2 or to the power of 3. So we're not going to have to do too many at this point, at least without a calculator. So let's try it here. Let's solve each exponent and let's represent it with repeated multiplication. 3 to the power of 5 is 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. Okay, that's written out as repeated multiplication. It's 3 times 3, which is 9. 9 times 3, which is 27. 27 times 3, which is 81. And 81 times 3, which is 243. So 3 to the power of 5 is 243. Again, if we can write it out as repeated multiplication, that's a very first step there. Now, negative 4 to the power of 4 is negative 4 times negative 4 times negative 4 times negative 4. Okay. What this is a negative times a negative, and when we solve that, that's a positive. Then we're multiplying by negative, so that makes it a negative again, and we're multiplying by a negative, which makes it a positive again. Okay. So because there's 4 negatives, we have a positive answer. Now, 4 times 4 times 4 is 64. If we multiply that by 4 again, this is 256. Okay, 256. I'm not expecting you to memorize that, but this is a positive because we have 4 negatives and we're multiplying them together. Now, this one, on the other hand, is a little bit different. This is a negative 3 squared, meaning that it is, because it's not in brackets. Notice this one's in brackets, so it's saying the whole thing is to the power 4. This is just saying that we have a negative 3 times 3. Okay, it's a negative 3 times 3. So what it's representing, so if there's no brackets like this, our answer is going to be negative. We're going to have an answer of negative 9. Okay, because this is 3 squared. Okay, this little negative here actually represents subtracting, and because subtracting comes after exponents, we have to do the exponent first. So we firstly do the 3 squared, 3 times 3, and then we make it negative. And so that's just one thing to watch out for, is one thing to be careful for when you're working through exponents. Negative 2 to the power of 3. Now again, this will be, it's in brackets, so it's negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. Okay, we have a negative times a negative, which is a positive, times another negative, so our answer is going to be negative. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, so the answer is negative 8 because there are 3 of them. If we have an odd number, it's going to be negative. If we have an even number, it's going to be positive. Okay, and that's if it's in brackets. A fraction, okay, if we have a fraction squared, this is 3 over 4 times 3 over 4. Now I'm putting into brackets because, again, the exponent, if it's over brackets, it just means it's to the whole thing. If it's not in brackets, it would be just to the top or just to the bottom. Usually it would be just the top. So if we do this here, we would square the top. 3 times 3 is 9, and the bottom, 4 times 4 is 16, and so our answer would be 9 over 16. We do 3 squared and 4 squared, and that's going to give us our answer. So in a fraction, we do it to both of them. We square both the top and the bottom. In this one here, we're going to do negative 1/2 times negative 1/2 times negative 1/2 again. Okay. Now again, we can, because they're all multiplying, we can actually do this all in order. We can do 1 times 1 times 1, which is 1, and 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. A negative times a negative times a negative is a negative as well, and so that will be a negative 1/8. And it's a little tough to see, but it is a negative 1/8. And that's our final answer because there are 3 of them, 3 negatives, meaning that our final answer is a negative. So those are exponents. Please take a look at questions 7 and 8 dealing with exponents. Write it out as repeated multiplication and then solve. Once we have done, for 7 and 8, I want you to show a repeated multiplication. After that, if you just want to kind of write it out as what the answer is, so negative 3 is just negative 9, negative 3 squared is just negative 9. You can write that out just as the answer later on. But for the first one, I want you to show all of the repeated multiplication that you're going through.